Ocean's 11 was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. All it showed was someone trying to rob a casino from start to finish.
Yes,
That's what a heist movie is.
I was talked into watching this movie, and I feel like shooting this person.
Oh no!
Oh, wow, that's murder. You go to jail for murder.
I didn't think the choose violence would happen here.
That was a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Ryan, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello.
And Steven.
Hi.
And in this very special Patreon Picks episode, we're reviewing Steven Soderbergh's 2001 remake of a classic Vegas heist flick.
Soderbergh?
Soderbergh. Whatever.
Let me start over.
Soderbergh.
And in this very special episode, Steven Soderbergh's 2001 remake of a classic Vegas heist flick.
I'm pretty
Ocean's
sure
11.
that's right.
Soderbergh, whatever his name is. His name's Steven, just like you.
It threw me because you already said my name. Why are you saying
He's reviewing Steven's movie of the year.
Steven Soderbergh.
Soderbergh,
Yeah.
2001 remake.
I was like,
Ocean's
I
11.
hope I didn't recorrect it.
You corrected it wrong, and then we stay with that the rest of the whole episode.
This never ends.
Yes, exactly. All right. Ocean's 11, 2001. Quick reactions. Andrew, what'd you think?
I like it pretty good.
Steven, what'd you think?
I always loved this film.
I love this
It
movie.
was great when it came out. It's still great now.
Yeah.
It is a fun film.
It is very fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we dive into the episode and get into our movie details, as I said, this is a Patreon Picks episode. That means that our lovely patrons voted.
You
Are
voted.
intelligent, handsome, beautiful.
Just downright
Cultured.
sexy, I'll say it. They voted over on Patreon in one of our Patreon Picks polls. We were choosing between a bunch of heist movies. Ocean's 11 won. And we would like to just take a minute to thank all of our lovely patrons.
That's right. Thank you so much to Daniel, Finn, T, Jason, Mark, Travis, Andy, Taylor, Grant, Robert, Sue, Nobody, Ken, Baron, Nick.
Is that their
Brian,
name?
Christian,
Maybe.
Brad, Colin, Andrew, Ethan, Ryan, T, Nick, Lady Palatena, Scott, Tyndall, Matthew, and Allison.
Nice.
Yeah.
Seriously, thank you so much.
Thank all of
we
you.
wouldn't
It
get
was
to
so
do fun
possible.
stuff like this without you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All right, plot summary here. Danny Ocean and his 10 accomplices plan to rob three Las Vegas casinos simultaneously. End of description.
It's not really like simultaneously.
I know.
It's
That description makes it sound like they were crossing the street. Go, next. It's not exactly
it's
how
not
it
really
works.
that. There's just a funnel that all goes into
Yeah.
one spot.
It's called heisting intelligently.
Yeah.
Not like an idiot.
Heist smarter, not harder.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, this movie was released on December 7th, 2001. It is 23 years old.
No, don't say that.
Or it will be.
Well, it's fun whenever you're watching this because everyone is just so young.
They are. Yeah.
Like, especially like Matt Damon.
Matt Damon's a baby.
Brad Pitt's
Yeah.
a baby too.
Brad
He
Pitt's
is,
kinda baby
yeah.
faced,
Because
yeah.
he was what, like 25 to 30 in that?
Probably close to 30.
He's gotta be
30?
close to
Yeah.
30. Let's,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull him up.
Yeah.
Because he was coming. This was before Fight Club?
I think
Fight Club was
after
right
Fight Club.
before.
No, this was, it was like, right around that
was
time.
close.
He was,
We're calling him a baby in this. He's 38 when this film.
What? No. How old is he now? Like 60?
Yes, exactly. He was
What?
He was born in 1963.
That's a gorgeous 60-year-old man.
right.
wow.
I look terrible.
Plus, you're not 60.
No, but I'm decades younger
But
than
you're
him.
also not
He's
Brad Pitt.
basically
Wow.
the same age as Brad Pitt was during this film.
I'm the same age as Brad
Right,
Pitt
how
was.
does that make
I'm
you
much
feel?
older than him.
That is insane.
I feel like our grandpa next to Brad Pitt. Man, all right. Well, now that my self-esteem is completely crushed, let's continue on. Directed by Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah. Man, can you imagine being 38 and wearing frosted tips like Brad Pitt?
Man,
Hey,
I bet in 2001 you could very easily.
If you're
imagine
Brad
that.
Pitt, though, you could pull it off.
Yeah, I mean,
It's one of those things where you see the style magazines and the grocery checkout. And they're like, oh, George Clooney rocking the goatee that every man's gonna be wearing. It's like, no, they're not, because they're not George Clooney.
Yeah, they're not George
He
Clooney.
can show up wearing a bag, and he probably has. They'd be like, oh, it looks so good. Yeah, because it's still George Clooney.
Look at this
Yeah.
cool bag or this weird shirt with a half leather part.
the $5,000 shirt that's only halfway there.
Yeah. Steven Soderbergh. You probably know him from Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Aaron Brockovich, Logan Lucky, Magic Mike. He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He
Likes his heist films.
His more recent stuff from like post Logan Lucky, Magic Mike. There's a lot of stuff he's done where it's like mostly undiscovered actors and they're like really low budget. He's gotten more and more out of
that's like the opposite track almost.
Yeah.
It feels like you start very
because I know that he basically
like big names.
He retired before Logan Lucky, and then he came out of retirement to do Logan Lucky.
We actually, I think, discussed that in our review of Logan Lucky.
Well, he did like oh man, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie, but he basically did a bunch of movies with like people that weren't huge at the time. They may have gone on, but like anyways.
Yeah.
Written by George Clayton Johnson, Jack Golden Russell, and Harry Brown. And I looked up all three of their stuff. And
I was going to say, those are people I don't.
Yeah, those are names.
Music by David Holmes, who did Oceans 12 and 13, as well as Out of Sight, another George Clooney movie, and Logan Lucky. Starring, let me take a deep breath here.
Good luck.
George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Julia Roberts, Andy Garcia, Don Cheadle, Casey Affleck, Scott Conn, Bernie Mac, Elliot Gould, Carl Reiner, Eddie Jemison, Sheobo Quinn, I hope I'm saying that right, and many more.
There's a lot. There's a lot of people in
there
this movie.
There are so many just random people who pop up where you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Box office, 183 million domestic, 267 million worldwide, with international with a $450 million total.
Now, Ocean's 11 is a remake from a film that came out back in like the 60s.
It was with the Rat Pack with Sammy Davis and Frank Sinatra and all them. Budget was only 85 million. So it's pretty high for like...
It's pretty high for a heist film.
But you think for the number of big name stars in it,
George
though?
Clooney, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts run around in there.
Well, now I'll say this. George Clooney wasn't... I mean, like, he was big, but like he was coming off of Batman Returns or... Batman
that was several years
like 5
before
or 6
that,
years before
No,
this.
it wasn't.
It was like 96,
7?
Yeah.
97, not 5 years.
Oh, okay. 4.
Okay. Dang, got him on the year.
I remember the themed cups that they came out with that movie.
Did the cups have nipples on the costumes also?
Probably, honestly.
They should have. Okay, let's get into some overall thoughts. Andrew, let's start with you. What do you think?
So
Start positive. What do you like about the movie?
No, there's really not a lot that
Start positive, as if he doesn't have something positive to say.
There's really not a lot about this movie that I dislike. It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of the moments, but I actually like Ocean's 13 a little bit better than this movie.
Really?
But not because like it's a better film. I think it just has some more moments that I just like better.
Okay.
There's a couple things about like some of the plot details in this movie that feel kind of arbitrary, that are just incredibly luck based.
Sure.
That they don't have any control over, that just happens to fall their way.
Yeah.
And which I get it, to be good, you have to be lucky and good.
That's Vegas, baby.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes the house wins, sometimes you do.
Yeah.
And I love all of the casting's great. All of the character interactions are really, really well done.
Yeah.
They do have some really fun like sequences where like you have like a really interesting POV of like on the end of a car, kind of like going through a parking lot, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
Steven Soderbergh has a lot to stuff in this movie that's like way more creative filmmaking than it has to be. Like when I'm trying to think of his name, Livingston Dell, played by Eddie Jemison, the hacker guy, the computer. When they're revealing him, and it's like this long zoom out shot of him like tripping over a guy's dog, and you hear George Clooney and Brad Pitt talking, and then it pulls out to reveal that the camera's just zooming out from in between them, and they're eating. Like that was
it's really good little bits like that. And that's the thing is like, this movie deserves, honestly, all the praise that it's gotten. It's a fantastic movie. Yeah. And I think I've just seen it so many times now that like some of like the really fun punchlines have just kind of been lost on me over time.
They just don't hit as hard as they could anymore.
Well, and it's the same way of like a mystery movie, a heist movie, same idea of like once you know the kind of the twist and like what's going to happen, it does lose some of the punch of like that first time you saw it and you didn't know how they were going to pull this off.
And that's it's very similar to like a mystery film or whatever. And I think that's kind of why I like Ocean's 13 a little bit better, mostly because it's just, I like Al Pacino in it. Oh, yeah. And just because he's just a really like, he's a good heel.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've watched 12 and 13.
I don't like 13 very much at all.
13.
12.
Well, in my head, it was like Ocean's 11's the best. 12 took a dip down. 13 came back up.
Yeah.
That was it. But I think, like, man, it was probably a decade ago the last time I watched all three. Because my wife's a big fan of all of them, and she had all of them when we first started dating. We were like, let's watch all of them, you know? And I remember, like, confirming my belief that, like, 11's my favorite, 12 goes down, and then 13 comes back up.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm actually sitting here trying to place the plots.
So
I can
that's
place
also
12's plot really easily. I'm really struggling to come up with what
Which is the
13
one with
about.
where Rusty, Brad Pitt, has Catherine Zeta-Jones? Isn't she in one of them?
That's 12.
That's
That's 12.
Yeah, that's 12.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those where like
strong point in 12's favor.
It is.
I mean, sure.
It's one of the few things I remember of the movies. I was like, that's all I have.
There are definitely a lot of plot points that happen that kind of cross over sometimes where I'm like, oh yeah, that's this movie that this happens in. Or oh yeah, that doesn't happen in this one.
You're waiting for them to say the line, and you're like, it never had. Oh, that's wrong.
That's a different movie. Yeah. Okay, so back to this.
The cast makes it all kind of blend. It's a through line. It blends together over time.
Yeah. So, Steven, what are your overall thoughts?
So I really enjoy this film. I have really enjoyed it since its release. And I actually think that over time, and it may just be I didn't watch it to death, right? It's just there's always been
I have seen this movie a substantial amount of time.
I've seen it a lot. It's also been out for almost 23 years. So there's been time to fit in like, it's been 2 years. Like when I watched it, before this recording, it might have been 5 years since I've seen this film, right?
Yeah.
We normally watch them probably once a year.
Okay.
That's wow. Yeah. See, I've watched it. I haven't seen this probably since I did the rewatch about a decade ago.
Oh, wow.
So I can guarantee it's been at least, it's almost 7 years since I've seen it because my wife's never seen it. This is the first time she's seen it.
Oh, cool. What did she think about it?
She enjoyed it. She liked some of I think in some ways, not to, place this in when we're reviewing it or whatever, it probably has more of the comedy aspect that she wanted out of Fargo.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it just again, it has so many good beats.
It does.
Yeah.
And really good dry humor.
Oh yeah, and just these moments where they'll just Clooney and Pitt will just be sitting there, and there's the one that sticks out to me in the bar where Pitt says nothing and Clooney's just like,
I was about to say that.
You think we need one more?
It's like we got like 10. I think that's enough.
I mean, if you think we need one more, let me know.
Think we need more? Yeah.
And he's gonna say anything. He
He's just wiped out tired.
We need one more.
Yeah.
Because Brad Pitt, even like you can't even, George Clooney can't see his face, but he's just like, he doesn't even react. He just sits. He's like, you think we need one more?
Yeah.
But like that, and then Casey Affleck and
and Scott Conn.
Yeah,
they have some really good moments.
The brothers kill me.
I think this is one of the first movies, maybe the first I ever saw Casey Affleck in.
Yeah,
I love me
so
some
too.
Casey Affleck. He's so good.
And I think really rewatching it works almost better because there are a lot of films, right?
There are a lot of films.
Yes, there are, Steve.
Knives Out is one that comes to mind for me, where once you see the twist, there's not a whole lot around it.
Yeah, there's a lot less of like a oomph there.
Whereas this one, I feel like they layer in so many other details.
Yeah.
Stuff where like you see ads for the fight, you see Benedict and Ruben is in the background, looking just pissed, and so like that clue you into where the future steps are going, and also it's really well shot. There are a couple of really fun like wipes and cuts to scenes where like the doors close and it closes into the scene or whatever. There's some really fun stuff like that is interesting to watch. It's not just a straight up we just shot it straight flat, went with it,
right?
And then again, it's really hard. You have a cast that includes George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Julia Roberts, Don Cheadle, and these people are all firing on cylinders. They're all hitting the notes and working with
balancing
each other really
all
well.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bernie Mac in there.
Bernie Mac is hilarious.
Yes.
He has some phenomenal lines.
Yeah, I'll get into a little bit of that in trivia after the spoiler wall. But so for me, I love this movie. I think it's really good. I think my biggest thing was when I saw this for the first time in 2001, 23 years ago.
See, I didn't watch it when it first came out. I think I watched it when I was probably like a junior in high school, so 2004-ish.
Yeah. So I saw this in theaters. I saw 12 in theaters, and I'm pretty sure I saw 13.
I think I saw 13 in theaters.
Okay. But I remember when I saw this in 01, it was like probably one of the biggest heist movies that had come out in a long time.
Oh, for sure.
Well, it was
There was the score with Edward Norton and, well...
Entrapment has its own charms.
It has that one laser scene and other stuff.
Jones and Sean Connery being creepy.
Yeah.
Also, Italian Job.
The Italian Job.
Hit it right. Again, another
Italian Job
remake.
was after 2001.
Was it 2002, 2003?
It was close-ish.
It was
But
in the same run of heist movies.
After you look that up, look up the score with Edward
2003.
Norton. So the Italian Job. What was the score with Ed Norton and Robert De Niro?
Score 2001.
Okay, so that was the same year.
Well, we had kind of like Hollywood runs in phases, right? We had kind of that focus group of heists are popular right
Thomas
now.
Crown Affair was somewhere.
Gone in 60 Seconds.
Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah, but this was, I think, the first like bank like style like a casino this is a.
It's a unique style of heist
because it's a comedic one.
It is
instead of being it really serious, or you have like Heat.
It's not too dour. It's not too into it. So for me watching it, I was like blown away. I was like, this movie is fantastic. It's so endlessly entertaining.
It's really well paced.
It is,
yes.
It goes at a clip that's never too fast, never too slow.
And especially for a film where for the most of the first part of the film, nothing really truly happens, right? There's no action sequence. There's no shootout.
Oh, yeah. It's no setup.
Well, and that's kind of the thing is it really shows how good the casting is and how good the dialogue is.
And the writing is really snappy.
Yeah, because George Clooney and Brad Pitt do such a... they're lifting so much on their back at the first part of this film.
The first, few scenes.
Because, I mean, you spend basically the first half of the film assembling the team.
Yeah.
Well, and again, talking about that shot where, they zoom out between them, I feel like they do a very good job of introducing each component of the team in a memorable way, in a fun way, and it's not just like a straight up boring.
It's an interesting introduction, like when we talk about something like Bullet Train, where you have those types of character introductions, where those are very stylized. Yeah. These they have their own unique style, and you learn a ton about the character personality as soon as they're introduced.
Quickly.
Yes.
But they also did that double thing where like you learn about the character and you're learning about Rusty and Danny's relationship and their characters at the same time, so that by the time you're done assembling the crew,
everyone has had so much screen time and so much build up.
Well, and there's also history with these characters, not just the two of them, but the other people that they're meeting that kind of bleeds through the edges. It gives it a feel of, hey, they've been doing this for a long time. Like this is a thing, you know?
Yeah. And I think the other thing, the one thing too that always stands out to me is just the charisma between Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
Yeah.
Like I remember when my wife and I watched the movie The Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer, and like that movie needed two people with tons of charisma.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have it. And I remember when we got finished watching it, I was like, "Did you like that?" She's like, "I don't know." Like you had that moment of like, it felt like a movie written for Brad Pitt and George Clooney in Ocean's 11 era, like just that effortless dialogue that like they both play off each other really well.
Yeah.
But then the other thing it stood out to me again upon rewatching it this time was that like I like the way the heist unfolds because it does that thing where like you see 60% of the planning and then there's always a wrench thrown in and you see how they overcome it, and then the full thing isn't revealed until
like
the end.
The absolute last minute.
Yeah. Which always is like the danger when you're showing all the setup is like you don't want to give people too much of it, to where it's like there's no mystery of how they pull it off.
Through, like they give you hints not just to how it's going to work, but just the various pieces. Again, they layer these pieces in, and when it finally hits, you can always look back and be like, oh, they showed me this. They hinted at that.
One of my favorites is like early on in the planning, they're like, all right, we need to make a replica of the vault. And one of the members was like, oh, to like train and practice it and stuff like that. And then Brad Pitt was like, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It's the little lines like that that conceivably could be like a throwaway line, but it's not. It's a very purposeful line. Yeah. Okay, so would you recommend it, Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing is like, I don't want to sound lukewarm on the movie. I like this movie. We watch it every year. Oh. It's just definitely one of those movies where whenever we play it, it's just we just throw it on.
Yeah.
Before I go on record on this one, because I know Andrew jumped in.
You want off the record? Is that
no, he stated 13 was his favorite, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if Ryan put a favorite down.
11. I'd say 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to cover the full game. I think 12 was my favorite.
Interesting.
Really? Which one was? What happened in 12 again?
It's the one with the fox, Francois, the French guy.
Oh yeah.
Who keeps stealing things in front of them. I like it mostly just because of that character, because he's just so egregiously European.
He's so aggressively European.
Yes. And it's just like
He's very French.
He's very French.
I am
French. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na.
So, okay, back to this movie. Would you recommend it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a great film on its own, and I think it kicks off a really fun series of films.
Yeah.
Where this is just powerhouse, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, making it happen with a great cast around them, really good writing. It's just really good and really fun film.
Yeah. And I think too, like if you've never watched heist films, if you've never gotten into them, this is a wonderful jumping off point.
Very easy
introduction.
Opening of the gate.
This is because the Suzume of anime introduction.
It really is.
It's effortlessly to follow along. Like it's fun. There's tons of comedy. It's not too
overly
dour.
complex.
No, it never gets too bogged down. Everything is pretty approachable and understandable.
It's very slick.
You don't have to assemble a crack team to break into our content vault. It's just right there on spoilersintothetpodcast.com, where you can go to find all of our previous episodes and links to things like our Discord, Patreon, and socials.
So we have a Discord. You should come and join us. It's always really fun. We love to talk about new shows that we're watching, what we're eating. We like to share pictures of our pets. We just have fun.
Yeah, it's a great time. Also, we have Facebook and Instagram. We post a lot of fun stuff over there, behind the scenes, what we're going to be reviewing coming up. Check it out. Follow us. I could just listen to that.
So we haven't even mentioned the music yet. The music's great.
The music. It's all such a light. It kind of has the throwback to the '60s original.
It does.
That era and that feel of the Rat Pack, but it's got kind of some light jazzy stuff going on all the time. That just listen to and flow along with.
Yeah. Before we go too far, that means we are past the spoiler wall.
Indeed, we have broken into the vault. Spoilers abound.
We have broken into the vault. Okay, let's start off with a little bit of trivia here. So the entire cast worked for less than their usual salaries to try to bring down the overall budget.
Oh, good for them.
Nice.
Because there's just so many of them.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where you look at all these names, you're like, man, how do they afford just
George Clooney,
boom,
Brad Pitt,
Julia
Matt Damon,
Roberts,
Julia Roberts.
So as part of that, Julia Roberts and George Clooney had not met before this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Which is wild to me.
I mean, it's one of those things where
like
they
not
were
an award show. You didn't bump into each other at the hors d'oeuvres table.
Well, they were kind of like America's sweethearts for that era, almost like the two big names.
Well, because they co-starred in no, I'm thinking. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah.
You trying to pull out Richard Gere here?
No, I'm thinking Gravity. I want to make sure I have the right pair.
Oh, the script was sent to Julia Roberts with a $20 bill attached to it. Included was a note from George Clooney that said, "I hear you're getting 20 a picture now." This is a joke referencing the fact that at the time, Julia Roberts had become the highest paid actress ever at $20 million per picture. So I guess before he even met her, he sent her the script with the $20. Hey, I heard you make 20
He's already cracking jokes.
Yeah, no, it was Gravity. The movie has Sandra Bullock, not Julia Roberts. Yeah, it's. So for some reason, I get that era flipped around.
No, those two were almost like competing for roles. It feels like for so long.
In the 90s. In the 80s, it was like Julia Roberts.
All the way.
Sandra Bullock went until like mid-90s.
Yeah.
So Steven Soderbergh wanted the actor Soderbergh. I will never say it right. I don't know why. Soderbergh is like soda. I want a soda. He wanted the actors to hang out on set to make sure they all had good chemistry, but every time they got together during downtime, they often just crowded around Carl Reiner to listen to his stories of old Hollywood and Don Rickles and things like that, which I think is great. It's like, all right, you guys hang out, and it's just Carl Reiner just working a room, and they're all just like
old man here to give out some wisdom.
Okay, so during the several takes that it took to shoot the scene in which Rusty and Linus are spying on Tess as she's introduced when she comes down the stairs, Brad Pitt had to eat shrimp and shrimp cocktail and ended up by the end of it eating over 40 shrimp.
Oh wow!
And these aren't little shrimp.
No,
these aren't like
chunky shrimp.
These are if you look at the cocktail glass, they're like jumbo shrimp.
So that's one of the things where he in this film is eating in almost like every scene basically.
Yeah.
And thinking about when you have to do a bunch of takes and you're sitting there eating ice cream or cookie or whatever it is, like at some point, if this keeps having to happen, man, you're gonna be real sick.
You're gonna like 40 jumbo shrimp.
No.
Yeah, had a bad night that night. Don Cheadle, this was interesting. When I was looking at the cast, he's not on the IMDb.
Yeah, he's not listed
and
for
he's
some
not in the
reason.
credits. And I was like, what? So Don Cheadle is uncredited despite having a very major role. This is due to a dispute over his billing. Cheadle wanted to be above the title billing alongside George Clooney, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, et cetera, et cetera. And when this was refused, he refused to be credited at all.
What?
Wow.
And he said he received above the title billing at Ocean's 12 and 13.
Interesting.
So at the time,
He
Don
won
Cheadle
the
was
war.
bigger, but he wasn't as big.
What else did he do around that time?
Before this, I'm trying to remember. He was in a couple things. Don Cheadle started in the 90s.
He was in,
Yeah.
what was it, Ladies Man?
No, that's
not him.
Tim Meadows from SNL.
That's it. What?
Yes, girl, we're gonna have to use your car because mine does not exist. I love the ladies, man. It's definitely not Don Cheadle.
No, it's not. Oh.
Yes, but he was trying to be like, I'm Don Cheadle.
Yeah,
I should be up here.
Yeah.
Instead, they put him below. But on the other movies,
Yeah,
they're
he's,
like-
he's above it. Yeah.
Here's some weird, interesting alternate castings that could have happened here. Matt Damon's part as Linus was initially meant for Mark Wahlberg.
No.
Oh, no.
Say hello to your mother and them. Who turned down the role in order to star in Planet of the Apes, the 2001 remake with the Tim Burton one. Yeah,
Yeah.
Probably a better
that was
choice.
Tim Burton?
I think he did Planet of the Apes.
think
though, one.
so.
Yeah, look that up.
I'll look
The
that
Matt
up.
Damon casting's way better just because Mark Wahlberg can't do the naive innocence.
No, he's too
little
Boston.
young guy. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
too tough guy Boston.
Yeah.
I'll
Whereas,
take you, Wallet. I'll take it in front of you.
yeah, whereas Matt Damon pulls off the kind of clueless kid really easily.
Yeah. Let's see here. When Rusty Ryan.
It was Tim Burton.
Yeah, I was pretty sure he
What?
did it. Yeah. When Rusty Ryan is teaching the teen idols to play poker, all the actors are actual teen idols who at the time were starring in popular TV shows. You had Holly Marie Combs, who was in Charmed.
Yep.
You had Topher Grace of That 70s Show. Joshua Jackson was still on Dawson's Creek.
Yep.
Barry Watson was on Seventh Heaven, and Shane West was of Once and Again. I don't know.
that
That's the one I'm like, I don't know that guy.
Well, the thing is, I'm like, okay, I know Joshua Jackson, I know Topher Grace, I know Holly, but I was like, I can't pin down some of these. And then you said, yeah, I still couldn't pin them down.
Right.
That scene just kills me inside a little bit every time. All red.
All red.
Oh, yeah. It was so good, though. It's like, that's exactly what they would say.
Yeah.
The last piece of trivia before we move on here is Luke Wilson and Owen Wilson were originally tapped to play the brothers Virgil and Turk instead of Scott Conn and
I can see that.
I could see that working. I don't know which one would bully the other. The thing is, Casey and
Scott Conn.
I keep forgetting Scott.
It's James Caan's son, Scott
like,
Conn.
You could tell which one would get bullied in this relationship.
Oh, for sure,
Whereas
yeah.
you put Owen and Luke, I don't. Who
I
is
feel like it would
supposed
be
to
a
the
totally
bully?
different
It'd be a
dynamic.
very different.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I feel like we should, yeah, it
I'm
would,
glad we both went for the wow.
so both of them dropped out to do the Royal Tenenbaums, which came out in 01.
Also, pretty good choice.
Danny Glover was supposed to play the role of Frank Catton instead of Bernie Mac. He dropped out to do Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh no, I think Bernie Mac is the right choice.
I think
Bernie Mac's
the
fantastic
universe
in
decided
It
correctly.
lined up here.
Like
yeah,
the two Wilsons and Danny Glover are amazing in Royal Tenenbaums, and I feel like we got Bernie Mac and Scott Conn. Now you got me doing it, and Casey Affleck. In this one, I think much better situation.
When Bernie Mac is literally squeezing the car salesman. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. You could do that. So in the scene where Linus is playing the
Nevada gaming
guy, and the whole
man.
Bernie Mac's, a lot of his lines were improvised, especially where he's like,
really?
"Let me get on the table, do a dance." Like all that was just Bernie Mac going off.
hilarious, just hilarious stuff.
Yeah, whenever they leave that office room or conference room, and then he goes right back at Linus.
He does,
and
he does a little feint, but see, Mark Wahlberg couldn't do that.
No.
one would buy that Mark Wahlberg would flinch
because this was because Matt Damon was still really young at this point, in his career.
He's going to end up being 40 in this film.
Well, no, because I think he was only 19 when they did
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
That was
I think.
mid-90s ish.
It was 96,
97, 96.
Let's see how old he
96,
is.
90, yeah, somewhere around there.
So
he was still pretty
Damon
early in
was
his
born
career.
in 1970.
Okay.
Okay, so that means he was 20.
dox
he
him.
was 31. He was 31.
He was 31 for Oceans, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just looks young then, I guess.
He does.
probably does,
But
yeah.
also, the way they dress him up is also
Yeah.
very kind of Poindexter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Damon had a run. He had Good Will Hunting. You had Talented Mr. Ripley. You had this. You
Townsend
had
Ripley's fantastic.
Born Identity was
2002?
No, it was the first one.
Maybe
Was
the
really
second,
was
maybe the
pretty
second one was
early.
04.
Yeah.
Yeah, first one's pretty early.
But
So,
I mean,
like, yeah, but he
Born
had a good
Identity
run.
was just kind of the mid-aughts to me, just because of the shaky cams.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, the casting in this movie fantastic. So well, let's talk some more. Now that we're past the spoiler wall,
It was 2002.
for Born Identity.
Born Identity,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, on the heist, there's only really a few pieces that kind of aren't explained, like the SWAT truck. Where do they get the SWAT truck? You know, like we don't really see them
we see
acquire
him
it.
steal stuff like the pinch.
Right.
But where do you get a SWAT truck?
So
Do you
the
paint
pinch
it?
is actually the thing that I hate the most about this film, and that's what really kind of like.
Why for?
Well, okay, so like you have this whole thing, and then like whatever thing that Don Cheadle's going through, he can't mess up the power grid on the thing because of something. They never explain it.
They discovered the they do explain.
Yeah,
it.
well-
they discovered the flaw that he was going to.
He was gonna
exploit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. But then like they were like, well, but then there's actually this machine that we have, or this thing that we can go over to California and go and get it with, which is another heist.
Yeah.
That has to happen, that is not planned. And
Granted, robbing a university is much easier than robbing.
well,
a
yeah,
casino.
but that's the thing is like it's a magical device.
It just
that
happens.
That exists.
And there could have been a different.
And-
If there is a piece where you say how plot relevant is it really, it could have been left out. That's the piece.
Yes.
Because
Because that's the thing is like
blanking on his name. Our acrobat. Him injuring his hand. It adds a little tension, but it's not really plot.
it doesn't- yeah, it doesn't
It's
really-
not like he can't do it. We have to sub somebody else in, and now Bernie Mac is going in the vault. You know what I mean? Like
It gets caught in the thing. At
But,
the one.
but
Yeah.
even then, like it's just played off for laughs instead of like actual tension.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the thing is like the EMP device is just it's so trite for like what it is.
Yeah.
It really bothers me every time I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, this is where they have the EMP bomb.
But
that
So
just,
that don't bother me at all.
I
though.
do love
Like,
all the chaos that results out of it when the power goes out and then it comes back and the two boxers start fighting and then it erupts into a huge fight and then you go to
Yeah.
casinos and people are trying to steal money and
that's
get
the thing is
clobbered.
like it's still not like it doesn't like ruin the movie.
Yeah.
It's just one of those pieces where I'm like, you could have written something better than this.
I mean,
Is it because the science of it bothers you, or is it because
the science of it, the convenience of it, especially when they're on such a tight timeline. Like there's so many different things. And then that whole scene of like Linus wanting to be like part of it when like he's clearly like good at what he does. He's not an idiot.
yeah.
Sure.
Like
Well,
why
that-
would
and,
like
like,
yeah, it's just
comparing it
that
to-
But,
whole
no,
section.
I love that part though because he leaves because of the brothers because they're driving.
But that's
him
the thing.
nuts.
Just don't listen to him.
Yeah, that's
It's
not how that works.
It's not
that's not how that works.
That pair is absolutely unavoidable.
I've been trying to ignore you guys for I don't know how many episodes now. Like, you can't tune some people out.
well, to me, it kind of pales in the sense of when you look at like we'll call it the early proto heist to get the video set up, the video feed.
Yeah.
Right. Like you get a lot more detail in that where like Bernie Mac, Frank is listening to the technicians talk and he writes the name down and then they work off that. They get the badge. Like there's way more setup for that.
There
to
is.
happen.
I do wonder if some of that's left on the cutting room
It
floor.
could be.
Though.
It could be.
It definitely
yeah.
could be. And so, like, and just as an example, like the big thing that happens, like in Ocean's 13. Sorry, the big thing that happens in Ocean 13 that is like the environmental thing that happens is basically they using this drill to basically create a false, earthquake or whatever.
Yeah.
So to like trip the seismic sensors and all those other kind of things, and like that feels much more realistic than.
I was about to say that almost feels more unrealistic.
Well, no,
Boy,
because I mean, like
he's
if you're
talking about these details, like, boy, I don't remember.
But
13
if you're
at all.
if you're grinding like the the core foundation of a building, like it's gonna
yeah,
vibrate.
but it's a movie.
It is.
Like we're in Hollywood here. It's not like actual EMPs or
No, I know,
Yeah.
but that's just one of those things where I think
But
they could have done a better job.
I agree with you on the point of it. It's like the complication happens and then it's solved really
Immediately?
quickly. I feel like, and I think the problem is that like this movie is very well paced and it's very tight, and it's like what I would want is more of a mini heist, kind of like you're saying with like the security feed.
Yeah.
I think-
but would that have bogged it down? Is that
Probably.
why?
That's the thing, yeah, like,
It's
it
too
could
many.
be, yeah.
So I think for me, it's a misuse of a heist crew archetype in an explosives expert, where he doesn't really do anything that you like when you go and look at something like The Italian Job. The way they utilize explosives is way cooler.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't have that moment in the heist really, and so I feel like if you had avoided that and had him do something else that was more interesting,
that results in the same blackout.
and you get the same effect or something, but like he's doing something that's more clever versus just we just go steal the one big box and I push a button and it works. It could be way more interesting.
Yeah. And again, like that doesn't ruin the movie for me, but it's definitely the biggest sticking point of like why I'm like,
Yeah. No, it's definitely a plot convenience for sure. But other than that, like I think
everything else is pretty tight.
We haven't really
the
talked
plot.
about let's finish talking about the heist itself. Like I feel like everything is pretty well either foreshadowed or set up.
Really
Yeah,
well
but
foreshadowed.
the SWAT van is the only thing that's kind of like,
But even then, it's like
you could probably fabricate one that makes it look, maybe
it's the same thing. There could be something on the cutting room floor that just shows
get like an Aramark van and paint it black. I'm like, it can be done.
There's definitely, definitely ways
and
to
they
do
at
it.
least show you, the car freshener.
Yeah,
that is the same.
The talk, and then they show it when it
Yeah.
pulls up. So they give you some clues about it. You just never see it in the actual. You
you don't see in
warehouse
the
they're
planning
working out of.
stage or whatever. Yeah.
Which for this type of heist, they have to give you feel like you've been given everything, and then show that they were hiding stuff.
Yeah.
And then pull those punches out late.
Yeah. But I think, like I said earlier before the spoiler wall, I do think that the percentage that they show you versus the percentage that you don't know and you're revealed towards the end is really well paced and
it's very satisfying.
Well, and they show
Yeah.
show you a lot of stuff happening, and you assume, it works like this, and then they play the twist. You're like, okay, well, they were still in this place. They had to get out differently.
Yeah, and like that always for me, especially with a heist movie, is very satisfying when like you don't see the twist quite coming, and then when it happens, it's satisfying because there's sometimes where like the twist happens, you're like, I don't like that at all.
Glass Onion.
Yeah, Glass Onion is a good one. Like Logan Lucky is good.
Yeah, Logan Lucky has a great twist.
Yeah, that's the same director. So
go figure.
Same idea.
Ocean 7-Eleven. Oh,
We haven't talked about Andy Garcia yet, but I feel like
so Andy Garcia and Elliot Gould are my two favorite.
Elliot Gould rules.
Man, him as Ruben is just like one of my favorite characters.
killer.
Of the whole,
Ruben is so good.
Where you're from Chicago? You enjoying yourself? Get in the house.
Get in the house.
Ruben and Saul are probably two of my favorite bit characters, just because of the archetype that they are.
Yeah. But
Andy Garcia kills it.
Andy Garcia also, speaking of Carl Reiner, just to go back to Saul, like Andy Garcia he said in multiple scenes, it was so difficult to just be very serious. Like he has to be around Carl Reiner. He's like, cause he's just genuinely one of the funniest people I've ever been around. He's like, so off camera, we're laughing. Then I have to get on camera and be like Andy Garcia. Like, and he's like, he said there's probably tons of bloopers. It's just him just laughing at something he said 20 minutes ago, but it just reminds him of it. And he's doing this German impression in front of me and I can't hold it together.
The Eastern European. But Andy Garcia also pulls off a really good, we'll say a villain.
He does,
He's a heel. He's a good heel.
Yeah. But his whole demeanor and attitude is like spot on.
Absolutely. Especially from what you think from like a casino owner would be.
Right. Yeah. The writing though between him and Tess and George Clooney in that whole exchange where he's at the table.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and then it's awkward and it's like they're testing each other and then he leaves and he's just like, Benedict, Daniel or whatever,
Daniel.
And it's just like, it's cold and it's like, and he starts kissing her hand, and it's like everything about it is like very like, I don't know. It just felt really good. Like
it was great.
I do think maybe for me, the romance through line is possibly the weakest piece, mostly just because
it's pretty weak just because she just runs into his arms.
Well, like the only convincing factor is Danny just basically says, hey, I could find your missing 160 million if you leave my ex-wife alone. And he's like, yeah, sure. Like what woman in the world sits around thinking I'm worth more than 160 million? Right? Like,
let me tell you, Steven.
Hold on. Would I be offended by? No, I'd be like, yeah, you should. I would take the 160 million over me too.
You hear me screaming from floors up, take the money. Right. No, I feel like the dynamic between Julia Roberts and George Clooney is there.
It is good,
but it's a little bit too fast.
We don't get enough of it.
They needed him to expose how bad a person Terry is. Not that he would choose the money over her.
And we just
that
never
he's
really
doing,
get that.
He's doing unethical and underhanded stuff.
Right. I feel like the thing that is inferred and is not shown is that like she secretly wants to get back with Danny, and she secretly doesn't like Benedict.
She knows she didn't choose well. They kind of give it to you with the art museum bit, where it's like he doesn't care about what she's doing. No, I was going to go with the bit where she's all proud about the composition that she chose for this painting, got it curated. Well, what do you think? Well, I like that you like it. Okay, obviously he does not care about art at all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he cares about money and power.
And so they breadcrumbed some stuff to make you understand that like
you get some clues.
It just needs to be a little bit more.
Yeah.
I just think they needed to show the mob boss side of Terry more to give her a better reason of saying, I really don't need
to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took one situation and replaced it with a different one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Andrew, I would ask you if you'd rewatch it, but it sounds like you watch it about once a year.
We literally they'll just be like weekends or whatever. And we're like, let's throw on Oceans.
Yeah,
and we do basically 11 and 13.
Okay,
so rude.
Well, I mean, I'll agree to say this. It has been a while since I've seen 12, and I need to rewatch it.
See, 12,
just to see.
12 has the bit that Ryan doesn't like.
Which one?
It's where the actor is mistaken for resembling the actor.
Oh, yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, it has that bit, and that bit has always bothered me. But the rest
Just
of it...
join me, brother.
Yeah, no, it's always bothered me. But the rest of it around it is so much fun to me that it just, when I hit the part, I just go, and just plow through.
For listeners that may not know what we're referencing, I cannot stand it when in movies a celebrity gets mistaken for the person that's like when Daniel Craig gets mistaken for being Daniel Craig, but he's playing a character. Because to me, it's like you're in a fictional world. Just make up a different actor. When real actors intermingle with like other real actors that are playing parts, it's like, so wait, in this world, this famous person doesn't know this other famous person? Do they not exist? Or is it like they don't freak out about this person having a literal doppelganger clone?
Because now at that point, you're thinking of all the mental gymnastics of like trying to piece it together.
Then, imagine if we're in a world where Rusty exists and he looks exactly like Brad Pitt, who also exists.
Right.
How would Rusty ever walk through a casino floor and not just be molested?
Yeah.
Right?
Or like no way to not paparazzi
that's Brad Pitt.
Yeah. That's Brad Pitt. There's no way.
Yeah. That stuff bothers me. Anyways, I would rewatch it for sure. I think what I want to do now is I want to rewatch 12 and 13. I want to have like a good trilogy.
Because I want to because that's the thing is like I want to see what you guys think, because like I know that everyone that has watched these films have always been like Ocean's 11 is the one, and the other two are fine. Yeah, but I really do think that 13 is really good.
I'm going to rewatch them. I'm going to look at them with fresh eyes.
Yeah, no, I'm on the path now. Lauren has not seen 12 or 13. She hadn't seen 11, so now we're going to end up watching 12 or 13. So, totally fine with that, too.
So, did you guys ever watch Ocean's 8?
No.
The one with Sandra Bullock? I saw it in theater. It was not great. The casting was really good.
Yeah.
So, like, all the people in it were great. Like, Kate Blanchett was in it. Sandra Bullock does great.
Well, I mean, like, it's, Kate Blanchett. It's hard to mess up.
Yeah. It was the biggest problem I had with it was there was literally almost no tension. It was like every problem was solved immediately. Any kind of disagreement was resolved immediately. It was just we win.
Nothing was left hanging.
Before we kind of wrap up, I think one of the things that I really like about this was they really do a good job at misleading you and thinking Danny is emotionally attached to trying to screw over Benedict.
He's compromised the mission.
He's compromised it, but that was actually the plan all along, to get it like to where basically he would be guaranteed to. I'm in this room getting the snot beat out of me for the past hour or whatever. But I actually was.
It guarantees that Terry thinks he has the problem pinned down and put away. So why would I worry about other stuff when I put the problem in the box?
Exactly. And I love that little twist because you're like, no, man. Get the emotions out the window.
Well, messing it up, dude. What are you doing?
If it was the other way, it would be a bit cliche.
It would
be
exactly.
And they lead you there, and that's one of those weird things that can happen in movies where they use cliches from other movies to swerve on you. To throw you off because you're so used to the pattern of the story. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about our Patreon.
For just $1 a month, you get access to all of our bonus episodes, commentaries. You could even vote in a Patreon picks poll similar to this one.
It early.
Yes, you get early access as a patron before it hits the main feed, but you also get to help dictate what we review.
Yeah. And also, like, some of our bonus episodes, they're a different format than our normal episodes. They're not just reviews.
We get a little wild with it.
In March, we did like a March Madness bracket for movies that had come out in March. We've talked about, like, obviously we've done taste tests. We did Halloween candy,
chips, sodas.
Every one of them gave us a
felt terrible
stomach ache afterwards.
We're going to do Goldfish at some point.
We've tapped on ChatGPT to give it romance advice. We've generated movie ideas with us just based off titles from ChatGPT.
We need to do another one of those. That one was fun.
Yeah. There's a ton of fun on there. Anyways, that's all for just $1. We got one tier, just $1. You can give us more, but it's the easiest and most direct way to support the podcast. All right, it sounds like that's about all the time we've got. So as always, follow us on social, leave us a review wherever you're listening now, and share us with a friend. Until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.